So the ZX10 is nearly finished. In fact, the last mechanical job I need to do is to fit a different rear brake line. The front brakes already have braided lines on them, and the rear is on the original rubber hose. And it's okay, but it's rubber and it's 17 years old, so I'm going to improve it. Look at that picture of an old rubber brake line. I mean, it still works, and I don't actually use my back brake very much anyway, but a replacement Hell braided line will look better and will function better, and they're not a lot of money. So it seems like a good idea to me to take this one off and put a nice new one on. So I've taken off the little side trim panel beside the tank so I can get to the reservoir, which I'll need to refill everything, and then I've put some cloth round by the old brake line, because when we take it off some brake fluid will get out and it's horrible stuff. So I have my gloves on, I have some cloths. Right, time to just whip that line off and literally bolt the new one in the same place. So that's my new brake line fitted exactly where the old one was and tightened up nicely. So the next thing to do is to bleed it up. I'm going to be using Motor.4 brake fluid because it doesn't need sort of race spec fluid, because I don't really use that brake very much. So this stuff's going to be absolutely perfect. So I filled the reservoir up with fluid already, and to pump it up, to bleed it up even, what I need to do is pump the lever, crack the bleed nipple off and pump some of the air out. What I tend to do is a couple of pumps to get the master cylinder nice and full and get some pressure, then open the bleed nipple, let the pressure out, so that should be pushing the air out bit by bit, then let the master cylinder reset and keep a bit of an eye on your fluid level. So it doesn't take long for the fluid to push through on the rear brake, because the master cylinder is quite big and the caliper is quite small. So I've already got a pretty good lever, but I'm just going to pump a load of fluid through so that I'm guaranteed to have all new fluid in the master cylinder and the caliper. Right, that is my rear brake line fitted and bled up. It looks a little bit nicer than the original, and it will work better and not fall apart to me one day. We've got nice new motor fluid in there. So that is actually all the mechanical jobs on the bike finished. All I need to do is do a final fluid level check, pop the fairing back on, and then there's just a couple of little cosmetic tweaks. So this is now looking very close to a finished motorbike. It could arguably actually be finished already, but for me there's a couple of little bits missing. In this packet here, I have the correct Ninja sticker that sits on the side panel here. Because I don't mind a black bike, but sometimes they need something to just break them up a little bit. And this way it'll look even more standard and original. So my Ninja sticker is going to sit about there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refer to the photograph so I can get it as close as possible to original. Then I'm going to put some little bits of tape on this sort of front application tape, peel the backing off, get it as close as I physically can, and then go for the final stick. So apart from forgetting to actually press record on the camera, I have now got my sticker stickered. So what I'll do is I'll run through it again on the other side. So this time I've actually pressed record on the camera, which helps when you're trying to film stuff. What I'm going to do is I've cleaned the panel with some brake cleaner and wiped it off well so that there is no dirt for anything to not stick to. I have my sticker out of the packet and a couple of bits of electrical tape so I can sort of hang it in the right place first and make sure I'm happy with it before we go for the final sticking. Right, I can stand back now and see if it looks about right. And compared to the photos, I know that this line is sort of in line with the vent. My eye is in the middle of my indicator, and I know I'm fairly close. I've got the line of the sticker about the same as the sort of trim line on the panel, so I think we're pretty good there. Yep, I'm happy with that. So then I can roll the sticker back, peel the backing off, and starting in the middle, push the sticker down, and then push it to the side to make sure we've got no air bubbles. Give it a good firm push. And there you go, the sticker in the right place. that's it. I have my side panel stickers on and my seat unit stickers, and I think it looks considerably better like that. It's broken the black up really nicely and gives it that nice original look. But there is one more cosmetic touch to do, and it's to do with this tank pad. Firstly, it says HRC on it, Honda Racing Corporation, and it's not a Honda. The other slight thing is, if we look at it straight from the back, it's also nowhere near central. So I'm going to peel it off, clean everything up underneath, and put a clear one on. So, tank pad fitment. The old tank pad came off fairly easily, and then I've given it a thorough clean up under here, so we've got rid of all the old resin and everything, any little marks from the old tank pad. And then I have my new tank pad, and what I've done is, so that I get it somewhere near straight, I've put a piece of tape on the tank, I've put some little red dots so we're fairly central, and that will put us in about the right place. I am going to warm this up with a heat gun though for a couple of minutes because it's quite cool in the workshop today, and if it's a little bit warmer it'll make it nice and malleable so that it'll actually sort of sit over the contours here nicely, and we should be able to push all the air bubbles out nicely. Right, that's the tank pad fitted, and I've managed to do it without getting any air bubbles in it, so that's a great success. So now I can actually take the bike off the workbench, do some suspension setups, and risk riding it. Now that the ZX10 is finally off the bench, the next thing to do is some suspension base settings. So the real important thing I'm going to set up first is the sag settings, and I'm going to do those by altering the preload. But I do need a friend, which is sometimes a bit of a struggle. When I had the bike up on a front paddock stand, I did a full length measurement of the front fork from the dust seal down to the actual fork bottom, and it was 117 millimeters. What I would like is 30 to 32 millimeters of sag for sporty road use. So I've managed to persuade Phil not only to be my friend for a few minutes, but also get on his knees. So what I'm going to do is gently get onto the bike, and then he's going to take my sag measurement. Going to get as much weight as possible, sort of balancing on the bike, so just on my tiptoes.
80 millimeters.
80 millimeters, which gives us a 47 millimeter sag at the moment. So right, we'll measure that again.
Yes, 68.
68, which seems very soft. And then we'll do a full length, lowered down, so we can see the difference with the stiction of the fork.
Back to 80.
80, so 68 to 80, 74 millimeters. Take off your 117 from 74. Right, so at the moment we have 43 millimeters of sag, which is far too much. So now I need to put some preload into the forks to push on the springs and push the bike away to reduce our sag. 7, 8, 9, 10. So that should give me 33 mil. But of course we need to check it. So I'll go first for a sort of up measurement and get on gently.
90.
90 mil, so that has made 10 mil a difference. And then a recovered measurement
is 73.
73, so the difference between those is 17 mil. Half of 17 mil is, call it 8.
Yep.
So 82 mil, no, 72 mil, 117, 35. Right, I'm going to go 2 more mil, and that'll do me nicely for the front forks. Right, the forks did seem quite soft there because I've got the damping wound quite open on them, but the sag setting shouldn't actually make much difference with the damping. So now we've got the front right, I just need to do the back. So, to do a full length measurement here, I'll pivot the bike over on its side stand, and I want Phil to get a measurement between the rear wheel spindle and a fixed point on the seat unit, which a little piece of tape and a pen mark is kind of useful for. So now we're down to the back of the bike. Phil is on his knees again, and we need to do a fully extended measurement first. I have a piece of tape with a dot on it, and I want to measure from pretty much the swinging arm, the wheel spindle, straight up to the dot. Ideally in millimeters, because it saves me working it out later. So if I just rotate the bike over on its side stand a little bit.
185.
585. So we'll pop that back down. On the back we only need to do one sat-on measurement because there is no stiction, because the shot pushes up and down, not like that trying to bend. So it is a little bit easier. So if I sit on, and again I'm going to try and get most of my weight on, so I'm on tiptoes. 555, so we're 30 mil, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right, so that's dead on 30 mil, which is pretty much cock on exactly where I want it, which has made my life very easy. If I wanted to adjust that, what I'd have to do is get in with a pair of C-spanners, undo the lock nut and wind the preload on or off the spring, depending on if I want more or less sag. But luckily today I don't have to. So now I've got the sag set, the next thing to do is do the damping settings. Now, this isn't ideal because the oil is fairly cold in the forks and the shock. So what we're going to do is just do some push tests, and that'll give us an idea of where the low speed damping adjustments are. And because all the adjusters on these road bike bits only do low speed damping, we're going to be somewhere near. But we might be a little bit stiff, purely because the oil is fairly thick today. Tell you what, that's not actually too bad. There's quite a lot of control going down and coming back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind the adjuster all the way in and see what difference it makes. Right, that's the rebound adjusters wound all the way in. Now the rebound adjusters will affect the compression and the rebound. And as you can see, that barely moves. So we definitely don't want it wound all the way in. We're going to come out of that quite a long way. So we're currently bottomed. The first click is 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10. 10 clicks, let's see what that feels like. Right, so I'd say that was actually pretty good at 10 clicks out. We have plenty of movement on the compression. The rebound has quite a lot of control to it. I suspect when the oil warms up a little bit, we might have a little bit less rebound, which I'm okay with, but there is plenty of control there. So what I'm going to do next is just play with the compression adjusters at the bottom of the forks, see what difference they make. So the compression adjusters, like the rebounds, I started with them fully open, they're now fully closed. Let's see what difference that makes. A definite change in the compression damping, it's a lot stiffer moving down. And now you can see it's slower going down than it is coming up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them back out quite a bit as well. I'm actually going to bring them out 10 clicks again, see what that feels like. So wound all the way in so the damper is bottomed. 0 is our first click. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just as a note there, a damping adjuster is always measured from all the way in. So you go all the way in, so the damper is solid against the hole, and then you count it out. Because that's sort of fairly uniform, because you've got a standard starting point all the way in. Preload, you measure it on from all the way off. So you start with as much load off the spring as possible, and then you add it on. So, that's pretty good. I might just have a couple more clicks off the compression damper, off the rebound damper, sorry, just so it recovers a little bit quicker. As you can see there's quite a nice control going down and coming back up. It's not diving too fast, it's not springing back and bouncing too much. So that's not a bad starting point for the forks. Now we'll move down the back end. So find somewhere fairly solid to push on the back. that actually doesn't feel too bad. We have control going down and back up. So what I'll do with the same with this, I'll wind all the adjusters all the way in, see what difference it makes. So that's the rebound adjuster wound all the way in, and like with the forks, it will affect the compression as well. So let's see what that feels like. And as you can see there, it's really quite stiff. It doesn't really want to push down very much, and it's really slow coming back. So that's definitely too much damping. So what we'll do, we'll wind it back out a little bit, see if we can get a happy medium. Now, there are no click adjusters on the shock, it's only turns. So we'll come out 2 full turns. Half, 1, 1.5, 2. Let's see what that feels like. I'll make them out a little bit more on that. So we're now 2.5 turns out on the rebound damping. And as you can see from that, there's quite a lot of nice control. It isn't bouncing back at me, but we have got some nice movement to it. So what we'll now do is wind the compression all the way in, see what difference it makes. So that's the compression valve all the way closed. That definitely makes a difference, but nowhere near as much as the rebound adjuster makes. So what we'll do is I'll move that out about the same. We'll 2.5, 3 turns out, see what it feels like. Right, I'm quite happy with that now. We're 3 turns out on the compression damping and 2.5 turns out on the rebound. And it's got a really nice control to it. It doesn't feel too hard, but the real test will be on the road.
Thanks for watching, and join me again soon when I test ride the ZX10.